Thank you all for making it to the Solar System for discussion about the Spectrum-based Star Citizen game. Today's discussion is about lore.
Right. Thanks for having my team here today. Are there populated UEE systems that players don't know about in the game? Particularly human populated systems seem to be the focus, and there's stuff on that star map that might not actually be there. And is that because they don't have any significant lore?
Yes, the star map represents all of the systems known to the humans, or as you would say, the UEE. So any additional systems discovered would be new for humanity too.
That's fair.
There are two exceptions, though. Ortani system was an early UEE system that got cut off when a single jump point connecting it to the Ferron system collapsed suddenly in 2485. This trapped all the early terraformers and settlers in the system, so it's possible that if they're still around, their society might have evolved in ways unknown, or even different to the rest of humanity. The other would be if the crew of the Artemis, the lost ship, as we all know, one of the saddest stories in AI history in the game, were able to land somewhere that had not yet been found by the rest of humanity.
Nice reference there about the Artemis. You know, we should talk about that a little bit after this. So the next question from the community was, are there a lot of Nick's rest stops? Now, there's a lot of talk at the CitizenCon event for the game about the living conditions on the frontier. And those who played Pyro have commented on how the stations feel much more run down than those in the Stanton system in the game. If I recall correctly, while Nyx is also an unclaimed system, it still sees much more traffic than Pyro because of its location and jump point connections. I assume that Nyx has space stations to accommodate haulers and travelers, and I was wondering how they might be different from what's in Pyro. Are Nyx's rest stops still owned and operated by R&R despite the system not being official UEE territory? Or is the plan to make them feel generally more well kept than the Pyro stations, but still dirtier than Stanton's?
Your assessment of the situation in Nyx is pretty spot on. The system went unclaimed by UEE upon its discovery in 2582, after only the first planet was amenable to human habitation. Of course, that didn't stop humanity from exploiting it for resources. As you noted, it's avoided the same fate as Pyro because of its 4 large jump points and 2 medium jump points. It made it an important transit system. Even the Bremen Beltway, an underground network that smuggled UEE dissidents into Xi'an space during the Meser era, passed through the system. In comparison, Pyro only has 1 large and 2 medium jump points. This constant traffic definitely kept Nyx from spiraling into the lawless depths of Pyro, and would have encouraged more businesses to take the chance to establish themselves in the system. Exactly how this manifests in-game is yet to be seen, but your general take feels right. Space stations will look and feel more like Pyro than Stanton. Players who were around when Levski on Delamar was temporarily placed in Stanton know that it has strong Pyro vibes. Still, it won't be rough as Pyro as it's managed by the People's Alliance, a group that fled the Meser regime and attempted to set up a new independent human government. There's a chance Rest and Relax, like colloquially known as R&R, will have stations in some strategic locations, or stations could be independently run mom-and-pop style operations that fall between legit R&Rs and decrepit gang-controlled ones.
All right, fair enough. So, something a little more lighthearted. I was recently talking with some friends about this. Is there any lore regarding famous in-universe racers? Also, curious if there are any non-human racers that have some lore attributed to them for the game.
We've established a number of famous racers within the lore for the game. Below are a few we've mentioned, along with their accomplishments. Gottlieb Jorm won the 2817 Mary Cup Blitz, but is now best remembered as the namesake for the racing-focused component brand Jorm, an eccentric figure who first made a name for himself in the Baker's underground racing circuit. Jorm became famous in 2814 after racing completely nude, claiming that clothes were an unnecessary weight, forcing Mary Cup officials to establish a rule that all pilots must wear flight suits for safety reasons. Arena Commander aficionados should recognize the brand and the name of Ian Rickord, who won the inaugural Mary Cup in 2479. Rickord Memorial Raceway is named in his honor. And in 2492, Tara McConaughey was the first female pilot to win the Mary Cup. She then became the first repeat winner with her victory in 2495. McConaughey would retire with 7 wins to her name, making her the most decorated Mary Cup champion to this day. Dax the Hax Emelman became famous for both his 2731 win and for setting a new speed record in the process thanks to his Aurora's heavily modified thrusters. Fabus Cabielles won his race in 2798 despite suffering from ROX syndrome. More recently, Hypatia Daring gained notoriety for her exciting come-from-behind victory in 2934, and became even more famous when a fictionalized account of her win became a best-selling book called simply The Cup. Finally, Zach Hugh became known to even non-race fans when, following his Mary Cup win in 2942, an amateur racer crashed into and killed Hugh during his victory lap. The tragedy sparked a rules change to how pilots qualified for the race. Some famous alien racers include the Banu Izagan Adu, the first non-human to not only compete but win the Mary Cup in 2553. Adu's success popularized this race among non-humans. They won a second Mary Cup in 2558 and were leading the 2559 race when their starboard engine exploded during the final lap. An official investigation deemed it was an accident, but many race fans still question that claim. In 2940, a young Xian, Nayad Hayong, one who renounces all familial and financial support for a chance to live the way they want, named Shirin Vatu, won the Mary Cup and courted controversy by dedicating his victory to the UEE. While most of the current racing lore is built around the Mary Cup, there's still some exciting areas to expand it. The addition of the WildStar Racing to the game is one such opportunity. We used their introductions to the game to specify that in the early 2800s, Zem Kolto gained fame as the first racer from the WildStar circuit to make it to the Mary Cup. We've established that the Xian's love for Koa e Kolae, Holy Distant Race. Though we have yet to specify any prominent pilots, the endurance race is growing in popularity within the UEE.
It's really cool to hear some of the racing technology as being brought right into the lore, and the stories behind the tracks, getting their names, the victories and the spoils and the losses are really cool. I hope there's many safe and great events coming up in the racing community, and certainly some great history to explore in there. Now, forgive the pun, but we're going to shift drives a little bit here. And I wanted to talk about the first quantum drive. It was created in the game lore to reach 1/10 the speed of light, and the technology was improved to allow smaller ships to travel further and faster after the first one. Now, later, the drives were built bigger and bigger, and they were able to get larger ships to travel at quantum. When the jump points were discovered, was more advanced space propulsion stopped? If it wasn't for the jump points, would humans and other alien races be still in their home systems until some form of faster than light travel could have been invented?
This is one of those questions that has an answer based on the fact that we're building a game, and an answer for the lore. Jump points were a convenient way to bottleneck travel between systems, and that would allow creation of independent play spaces connected by single circuits, rather than slow burning from one massive play space to another. From a lore perspective, yes, it's possible that cultures could have conceivably unlocked faster than light travel if they didn't discover jump points. But since we have a jump point mechanic, ultimately all our alien cultures ended up discovering them. That said, the Xi'an discovered jump points a lot later after their initial space flight relative to humanity, so their technology level overall was more advanced, such as their artistry with anti-gravity. When they did finally start exploring star systems outside of the original one, it was quite a sight.
Quite a sight indeed. I got a question that's been burning up Spectrum lately, and it's could we get a lore post about the companies behind Arena Commander buying or merging with Star Marine? After all, since the two different game modes in the Spectrum based game are now merged, can we have it reflected in the game lore too?
As part of the recent improvements to the Star Citizen's multiplayer game modes, there was a desire to streamline and improve the experience. Rather than having to browse the FPS and vehicle game modes separately, all the options are currently pressed together and presented in Arena Commander. This will also make things easier when we begin introducing combined modes. As for the fictional side of things, just like the experimental game modes themselves, we are still learning as we implement these changes. Rather than updating the current lore to address these inconsistencies, our current plan is to give Arena Commander some additional time to further refine the lobby experience. Then, once there are a bit more locked in, we will officially incorporate the more finalized flow into the narrative.
Makes sense.
Our current thoughts are that the original systems, faced with the sheer popularity of Arena Commander, decided to retire the Electronic Access brand and migrate their gaming platform into Arena Commander itself. As Interdimensions Software was already partnered with the original systems to feature their game in Electronic Access, it was an easy transition for them to continue to feature their heart-pounding FPS action there. As for Stormreign itself, it is unclear yet whether Interdimension would continue to develop games under the brand, or if they will focus more on their partnership with original systems.
It's fascinating the depth of game development, even inside of a game. So, Citizen Day has always been a weird one to many because how do non citizens feel about this holiday devoted to citizenry?
Ah,
After all, there may be hundreds of millions of people that wanted to become a citizen, but fell short due to valid, unforeseen personal reasons, or just plain bureaucracy, nepotism, or even failing to pay off corrupt politicians. Are these civilians envious of citizens? Do they ignore Citizen Day? Do they take part and celebrate in it? Or do they even try to sabotage it?
just like many things in the universe of Star Citizen, we envision citizenship to be a nuanced matter. There are many civilians who live in the Empire that, while disenfranchised, either do not bother themselves with intersystem politics or believe that those who have dedicated themselves to civic life are better situated to guide the Empire's future. And while there are certain other privileges associated with citizenship, besides voting in the Imperator elections, which we are holding off on confirming the specific perks, as they will have larger design and economic impacts that are being balanced. The benefits are such that they don't have people's day to day lives impacted. Of course, as mentioned, there are those that do desire citizenship and seek out through various paths like military service, charitable acts, major civic contributions, etc. Typically, if someone fails to earn the status, it is less owing to the physical capability and widespread corruption and more because of issues with the law or inability to dedicate the time needed to such an endeavor. Citizenship is not meant to be for everyone, but to those who have made a significant effort to serve or better the Empire. All of that said, there are groups within the UEE who believe that voting should be a basic right and everyone should be made a citizen. There are even some who wish to abolish the status altogether. On Citizen Day, there are often protests and demonstrations to such effect. There have also been counter programming scheduled on that day geared towards civilians, along the lines of a punk music festival, as someone would say. Some stores have even been known to offer tongue in cheek civilian discounts on that day.
So, those on Spectrum have a question about the Ambrose suit. Is it made for special occasions? It's listed as a formal jumpsuit made by Moi Moi, but I can't seem to find any other information on it for this questioned person. Is this more of a daily outfit for people on Sase or something you would wear to formal occasions? Also, is Moi Moi a popular brand? They don't seem to have a ton of other products based on our research. Moi Moi is a clothing company based on Sassy, also known as Centauri 3, that prides itself on using natural fabrics to create comfortable and casual pieces. Its clothing tends to have a looser fit and often features layered or draped fabrics. Overall, Moi Moi's style and brand positioning lean earth-centric, which paints it as a pretty traditional to the public eye option. Their stuff would be more popular during casual Fridays at an office or with white collar workers relaxing on the weekend. While Moi Moi is a popular brand across the UAE, it has limited presence in Stanton due to the makeup of the system. People on Hurston or on Orcop lean more toward industrial and blue collar brands, while those on Crusader and Microtech might prefer more modern, Terra influenced brands. With the Ambrose suit, Moi Moi is courting consumers drawn to more modern look by putting a stylish spin on what the company does best. The suit has a more bold and modern design, while still featuring a loose fit and draped cape. In addition to the use of natural brocade silk, Moi Moi also sourced worsted Myox-1 wool from the Xi'an for the use of the suit. This combines for an eye-catching and special addition to the Moi Moi lineup, one which walks the line between being right for formal occasions while still being comfortable and practical enough for everyday wear to the office. Going back to ships for a second. According to ArcCorp's portfolio, ArcCorp began as a deep space exploration consortium in 2687. Starting in a shipping container by a group of friends, the company aimed to use their lone Zeus 4 spacecraft to locate and catalog jump points. Now, the question I have is ArcCorp's Zeus MK4 going to be changed to the Zeus MK1, or is it the in-game Zeus Mark II, a remake of a ship older than the MK1? If it is a reimagined MK2, then why did they reimagine it rather than the newer MK4?
A very good catch. When naming the new Zeus MK II, the mention in the ArcCorp article was unfortunately overlooked. Since the fact that it was a Zeus craft is not that critical to the story of ArcCorp's founding, we have gone ahead and updated it to an Aurora, which had been released about 30 years prior.
All right. I think I have a pretty straightforward question here. for the next one. Gameplay reasons aside, it feels like it would be rather tiring to keep your wrist up all the time to use your mobiGlas, while also restricting the use of the screen to a single hand. There are also privacy issues with the large transparent screen floating in front of you. Is there a lore reason? While this is rather unwieldy and awkward form factor, has become the dominant mode of interfacing with one's digital life instead of AR glasses, contact lenses, or even direct brain to machine interfaces. In the Spectrum based Star Citizen game, the mobiGlas works hand in hand with other interface designs, many of them also from Microtech. Almost everyone is equipped with a Reviri AR lens, which provides the wearer critical information on their contact lens, as well as various VI interfaces placed into the visors and specs to provide even more details to the wearer. There are also data pads and terminals in the verse that are frequently used when longer stretches of interacting with data is required. The mobiGlas fills its role as a portable device that can quickly be used to access a whole host of different apps. The hologram interface won out over traditional screens for providing a larger interface in a smaller package, as well as having the convenience of always living on your wrist, especially useful in space travel. As for privacy concerns, people of the 30th century have an understanding that privacy in public spaces is minimal anyway, and if they truly want it, they need to be somewhere more remote. All right, all right. I saved the best question from Spectrum for last. As a loyal user of the Cutty Black, I want to know why it doesn't have a toilet. Oh. The initial in-game version of the Cutty Black did have a toilet as part of its design, an exposed prison-style privy in the cargo hold between a cargo net and the ramp. Using it provided little privacy and was a considerable danger if the ramp opened during space travel. The rework that produced the current version of the ship removed the toilet and left the Cutlass Red as the only variant to still have one, tucked into the space occupied by the turret seat and the other variants. The ship team hopes to reincorporate a commode into the Cutlass Black and other variants, but space is at a premium on this ship. It would be fun to weave a little lore around the Lost Lou, like the specs for the military contract. The ship was originally designed for mandated in its inclusion, but Drake removed it following a redesign for the commercial market. But considering there's a chance it returns, it's probably best we keep it out of the lore for a moment. If we justify it with lore reasons now, then we'll have to explain why Drake recalled all the cutlasses without toilets and replaced them with ones with toilets. An extremely expensive endeavor for a company famous for wanting to keep production costs as low as possible. All right. I pestered you long enough. I want to thank you, Lore Team, for meeting my team today and answering some of these questions. Greatly appreciate it. Anytime. Well, I took a risk this one. This was a lore reading of a lore post covering lore questions from the community, posted on December 12th, 2023 by the lore team. Thank you all for your work. You do some amazing things. You put out some great articles. You put out some great content, and you keep our lore back strong in the Galactopedia and all the other content that we focus on. That gives us that extra tapestry that the verse is made out of. Thank you for all you do. And if this ever makes it back to you, I really hope that you understand the liberties I took in some of these ways I presented your answers. I did my absolute best, other than terribly pronouncing things. I did my best to get the facts right, so the right people the right, if it's a Banu or a human, or if it's a ship, or what kind of ship, when, where, etc. As I do my best to do on my lore reads, which I also do. I have an entire playlist I'll put at the card at the end here that's all full of my lore reads, and I do all sorts of different kinds. So if you made it this far, thank you for sticking around. Thank the million subscribers for being here. And I wanted to mention that the lore team, I think, gets kind of like, how do I put this? Like, it's not exciting to some folks, but the people who are truly caring about it, um, there's this core group of folks that really appreciate the work that is done on the lore front. And it goes beyond what CIG is releases through the lore team and the various teams that then take that information and kind of flow it into the ideas for newly concepted ships, all the way down to, well, what kind of trash cans Area 18 would probably have, or what type of holograms they would put up in their markets. And um, it's really cool to see that there's that vision at the end of the day. There's that, but that still, that playfulness and that adventurous nature you can see here in the lore team talking about how they can reinvent something as needed to support the game. And I really like that kind of symbiotic relationship that over the years we've seen with the lore team. And I want to give it a nod that just as much the game itself asks the lore to kind of fill in the blanks and create the story. Like, for example, something that we often talk about is the Artemis ship. I mentioned I would bring it back up. Yes, that's me voicing these. So obviously it's going to be me talking about it at the end. But the Artemis ship was an example of that we know of as of this moment failed artificial intelligence. One of multiple incidents in the past for humanity that explains why there's not everything being computerized. That there's a lot of focus still on human labor, manual labor, human assisted labor with mechanical technologies or more basic computer systems that can't think for themselves. And that ship is thought to be lost. But right here in this article, they talk about that the other would be if the crew of the Artemis were able to land somewhere that has not yet been found by the rest of humanity. So, what if they did succeed, at least partially, in their colony program? What if they were able to land somewhere and they have the resources? It's not like it's just some random fighter or some random little ship of some sort that has limited resources. This was a ship designed to make a colony and it went missing. What if its comms arrays were damaged or something like that? And that brings out such excitement just thinking about those things and looking forward to trying to explore to find the Artemis, studying every single little detail about the systems that it would be going into. So maybe, just maybe, me and my crew get to be the ones who find it and then get to share it with the rest of the community. I think there's an excitement to that. And there's been quite a few moments in Star Citizen where exploring new locations and finding new things has really been kind of like defining, to me at least, what exploration is and what the community's concepts of being able to work together are. And that's kind of where we're at. So, yeah, exciting stuff, unique world. I can't uh I can't wait to see what happens next. And once again, if you like this content, be sure to like it. It's the only plug I'm going to do other than thanking my long term subscribers, as I always do, that I've done already. And I'm going to go give my voice relax. Take it all easy.